Welcome to Jobbed Out, the wrestling editorial that reminds you that if Hulk Hogan tells you she said yes, she almost certainly did not say yes. I'm just kidding. Congrats on the engagement, Hulkster. Hulk Hogan is undeniably the biggest star in the history of pro wrestling. He's main evented some of wrestling's largest shows, he's drawn millions upon millions of dollars, he's inspired generations of new stars, and he's accomplished so many things that most of us couldn't even dream of. Unfortunately, despite all of those many great things that Hogan has done, the man has insisted over and over to pad his resume with more lies than the average person could think to tell in a lifetime. In 2020, I put out a video looking at least 5 of those lies. Some were small and petty, some larger and more egregious. Then in 2021, I put out another video looking at least 5 more. And in 2022, I put out another one with even more than that. At this point, it's become a jobbed out tradition, and if you've missed any of those, definitely pause this video and give them a look to get caught up. So even though I thought I had tapped this well dry, it is time once again to wish Hogan a happy birthday and open up the book of Bolea's bullshit. This is Freaks 5 of Hulk Hogan's many lies. Part 4. Number 5. The original Triple H. There wasn't a wrestling fan born after 1990 who doesn't know who Triple H is. But as a guest on the Steve Austin Show, Hogan claims that the name was something he pitched to Vince McMahon for himself.
When we were going to do the WrestleMania thing, we did the build-up pretty darn good. And then Vince told me to finish. And my question is always, whether I'm going over or not, why are we doing this? And what's next? Damn, Vince, what about after the finish? And I go back, and when he's up there celebrating, I gaff his ass, and I crucify him, and I call myself Triple H, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Oh, that'll never work. And Vince says, no, you can't be a heel. So Vince kind of squashed the Hollywood Hulk Hogan deal.
We're gonna have to ignore that Hogan had not yet even broken into Hollywood, so why would he decide to use Hollywood for his name? It's beyond me, but the guy who did end up using the moniker did pretty well for himself. Number 4. Buying UFC. Not unlike the Metallica lie, Hogan decided to change his story and update this one for newer audiences. For those who don't remember, Hogan used to claim that after he left WWE in 1993, he was invited to compete at what would become known as UFC 1, but shot it down because it was so very incredibly violent, despite the fact that they hadn't had a show yet. One of the founding owners of UFC literally called bullshit on this idea on Twitter, saying that they had never considered Hogan, and it was generally just dismissed. Well, now thanks to this whole Endeavor deal that'll merge WWE and UFC under one company, and the This Past Weekend podcast, Hogan has updated his story from "they offered to have me compete" to "they offered to have me buy it."
UFC is awesome. Do you ever watch any of that?
Yeah. There was an opportunity to buy it a long time ago, and Vince and I passed on it. Before the referees stopped things.
Yeah.
And they were kicking people when they were on the ground, and it just was so violent when it was brought to us. We went, that was a huge mistake.
He did keep the whole before referee stoppage part of his act, though, which means he's very likely talking about 1993 still, when UFC had their owners and weren't looking for people to buy. Granted, he could have meant in 2000 when Zuffa LLC bought the company, but he was still in WCW at the time, and it's very unlikely he and McMahon would go into any venture together. Number 3. Bigger than the Rolling Stones. In 2021, I talked about Hogan's claim that he was asked to join Metallica, which was a lie. And while there is a whole story about Hogan trying to get into the Rolling Stones through Mick Jagger's wife, this lie is a bit more cut and dry. I haven't been able to figure out the original source of the clip, but here's an out-of-nowhere claim regarding the Pontiac Silverdome in WrestleMania 3.
Put Mick Jagger in his place. I mean, we wrestled in the Pontiac Silverdome, and the man that ran the arena called me and says, "My God, you can't wrestle here next Sunday." And I said, "Why?" He said, "The Rolling Stones are coming this Sunday." He says, "You're never going to be able to follow their act." So the Rolling Stones wrestled on Sunday, and they drew 88,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome. Hulk Hogan came in next Sunday and drew 94,000 people.
So, ignoring that WrestleMania 3's attendance was way lower than WWE originally claimed, why is this such a blatant lie? Probably because the Rolling Stones didn't tour in the US between 1982 and 1989. That means they absolutely did not play the Silverdome a week before WrestleMania 3, and the WWF definitely did not outdraw the Rolling Stones there. Maybe Hogan makes stories like these up because he just can't get no satisfaction. Number 2. Rikishi broke Hogan's ribs.
I did it for The Rock.
WrestleMania 18 featured one of the most iconic passings of the torch when Hollywood Hulk Hogan returned to WWE and took on The Rock. What made the match so memorable was that the fans were so behind Hogan despite him being the heel that the two had to scrap their entire script, call the match on the fly, and ultimately turn Hogan babyface. Something a lot of people overlook though is that before the end of the match, Hogan would begin to cling to his ribs. Not to sell the grueling battle he was in, but because he was injured. The internet has rolled with this idea that Hogan was doing to The Rock what he did to The Undertaker, but in Hogan's crap autobiography, he admits he was hurt before the match. And on the BS report, he put the blame squarely on a different Samoan.
Had a warm-up match because I hadn't been in the ring for a while.
Yeah.
I was wrestling Rikishi. I said, when I go to turnbuckle you, reverse it, I'll hit, and then charge me, squash me. And now he's coming wide open to squash me, so when I hit the buckle, I kind of forgot that I told him to squash me. I looked over at my kids, Nick and Brooke were with front, hey guys, what's up? Thumbs up, and wham, I got whacked. And I wasn't flexed.
Yeah.
And Rikishi whacked me. It wasn't his fault, but 2 of my ribs got a little crack, and man, that hurts.
Thing is, between that March 1st match against Rikishi and the March 17th match against The Rock, Hogan wrestled live on Raw against Rock and Austin in a handicap tag match with 0 signs of a rib injury at all. So what does this dude gain from throwing Rikishi of all people under the bus?
This is about making money.
This is the part of the video where I usually offer up some honorable mentions, and in this case, I'm going to bring up some claims that have some reasonable doubt, but have a much larger probability of just being complete total lies. Getting The Undertaker hired. I spoke about Undertaker in my 2021 video and how Hogan attempted to sabotage Taker's career. But according to Hogan, it was him seeing Mark Calloway on the set of Suburban Commando that led to Big Red being hired in the WWE in the first place. The thing is, there is a very, very tiny window of time for this to be true, as the production for the movie was filmed in late September 1990 until January of 91, and of course Undertaker signed with the company in October and debuted at Thanksgiving. Hulk Hogan's credit score. In the original Book of Balea bullshit, Hogan claims he was so musically gifted that in high school he made enough money to purchase 2 cars and had a hell of a credit rating. While Twitter will be quick to tell you that the current credit score system didn't exist until 1989, long after Hogan graduated high school, there were credit bureaus and rating systems beforehand, so while unlikely, not entirely dismissible. Hulk Hogan versus Greg Valentine. A while ago, Greg Valentine went on a tear because he claimed he was supposed to wrestle Hulk Hogan in a Legends match at WrestleMania 22, but that Hogan had shot it down. That was 2006. In all fairness, if you were Hulk Hogan, do you think wrestling a 54-year-old Greg Valentine in 2006 would draw money? At best, this was Hogan making a rare good decision, and at worst, this falls under a Valentine lie instead of a Hogan one. With that said, what is my number 1 most egregious lie of Hogan's many, many, many lies? Number 1, Starrcade 1997. Admittedly not the largest of his lies, it definitely doesn't compare to making up a dead child to sell CDs, but this was an act that impacted so many people and completely changed the direction of a company to the point people stopped looking at WCW with high hopes and really began to tear the company apart at every flaw and bad decision going forward. So the buildup of Starrcade was that Hogan and the NWO had torn through the company so brutally that wrestlers en masse were deciding, if I can't beat them, join them. But there was one lone holdout. Sting, who had basically become the Crow, was to be the guy to stand up to the NWO and bring momentum back to World Championship Wrestling. The match itself saw Sting get almost no offense and was pinned clean.
1, 2, 3.
Only for Bret Hart to restart the match, resulting in a Sting win. What? Why would Hart screw Hogan after a clean finish? Well, basically because it wasn't supposed to be a clean finish. According to Eric Bischoff, day of the show, Hogan saw Sting with a softer, paler physique than in the past and exercised his creative control clause.
Hulk looked at me and said, "Not today." And because Hulk wasn't feeling it, he called an audible, and it was a mad scramble.
Bischoff compromised with a fast count so that they could have Bret Hart, who after the Montreal Screwjob left WWE for WCW, intervene and vow never to let another screwjob happen. However, according to Nick Patrick, Hogan didn't seem happy with that compromise at all.
So Hulk comes up to me first, a couple hours in, while we're there. He goes, "Hey, Nick,
about that count, man. Nice and slow, man. 1, 2, 3. I'm thinking, okay.
And of course, according to Hogan,
Referee counts 1, 2, 3. He doesn't kick out.
He was supposed to kick out.
Yeah, and he didn't kick out.
1, 2, 3.
so for those people who want to defend Hogan's idea that Sting was supposed to kick out, I will counter with one question. Why would Bret Hart get involved then? If there wasn't to be a screwy fast count, then there would be no reason for Hart to attack Nick Patrick and take over as ref.
I don't remember Bret Hart being involved. I don't remember another referee come down. I don't remember anything like that ever being talked about.
And there you have it. Yet another year with at least 5 of Hogan's biggest, most egregious lies at the expense of others. It makes you miss the days of him just claiming he wrestled 400 days a year because of time zone changes, or that he's so good at baseball the Yankees were scouting him. I'll be honest, I think I've covered about as many big ones as I can without delving into the unprovable claims. So I'm gonna have to come up with something new next year, but for now I want to ask you, of all the many lies Hogan has told through the years, what were the ones that stuck with you most? And before someone comments, "You forgot this one," make sure you've watched the other 3 videos too. And of course, be sure to throw a like and remember to subscribe because I want you to be a part of these conversations too. For now though, I better get my shoulders off the mat, brother. So I want to thank you for tuning in to Jobbed Out. I'll catch you next time.